Okay, it'd be great to start with a little bit of background in terms of the launch. You fairly recently launched the Open Compute Project proof of concept. I think it's Stellium's Newcastle data center. So I guess it'd be good to understand the thinking, the thinking behind it.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Stellium are one of a few OCP data centers in the UK. We really got that together a few years ago. This is the first proof of concept we've done there to really prove what we can do within Stellium and within an OCP site. So it took a fair bit of work, and we worked very closely with Submer, who are our partners in this. And Submer were really helpful in bringing together, I would call the ecosystem that really got involved in this proof of concept in Stellium. And there's a few reasons as to why we decided to do this. And I think one of the main driving factors was really to prove to the industry that Stellium is equipped to liquid cool, and whether that's immersion, whether that's liquid to chip, whether that's rear door. So from my perspective, as a sales and marketing director, it was very apparent that we needed to show the industry that we can do this within Stellium, this kind of engineering feat, which we've done now. And it actually attracted quite a lot of attention. It's the first version 3 OCP deployment in Europe.
Yeah, so in terms of you say you work with Submer, so immersion cooling system, you've integrated it into that. So I'd just be interested, I guess, how easy or otherwise was it to install that? Is it fairly simple issue, or are there things you've got to think about?
It's a lot more complex than a traditional rack would be. And thank God it wasn't me that installed it, but our professional engineering team with the help of Submer and the partners. So to answer your question, yes, it is a bit different from the traditional installation. One of those sort of big areas is delivering water into the data center, which traditionally water and computers never mixed, as we all knew. So there's some engineering work that goes around plumbing, our water loop into the actual deployment. And there was a lot for us to learn with all our partners. So a lot of our partners came over to help install this, varying different partners, people like ExxonMobil. We had organizations like Circle B, Murata, MyTac, and all these guys had their own skills that they could help deliver this project. So I would say it was great for Stellium to come over in their team to show the Stellium team how this works, how we maintain it, and how we look after a deployment like this, which is relatively rare at the moment.
Okay, yeah, and you mentioned a few of the other, in terms of the overall OCP compute solution, a few other folks. Just be good to understand what it is that each of them sort of brings to the party, how they've helped you, put the whole thing together.
Yeah, well, look, the OCP, I always say to anyone, from a data center perspective, we're laying on the floor at ground zero, looking upwards. And, as I think most people that run data centers would know, we don't always know what our customers are doing in that compute for varying reasons. But what we have to be able to deliver to our customers is the ability to put very heavy deployments like the Submer tank onto raised floors. So we've had to strengthen the floors. We've had to raise the lifts and increase the weighting in the lifts. We've had to increase the size of our doors, and that's all part of the the OCP standard for a data center. Now, when you look at organizations like Submer, for example, work very closely with OCP in terms of what goes into those tanks. And that falls into the other organizations that we dealt with, people like T Connectivity, Murata, EdgeCore, Formerica, all have their specialities within OCP and delivering liquid cooling or immersion cooling products. So it's a number of organizations, and one that I would point out was probably ExxonMobil. You see a lot of the petrochemical companies getting involved in this liquid, the liquid cooling side of things now. I was having a conversation with someone, and it was an interesting chat to see how they pivoted from gasoline and the kind of things that we know petrochemical companies for into this cooling liquid. And it was interesting to hear things like fast chargers that people are using every day. Those fast chargers get so hot that they have that liquid component is within those fast chargers, and that obviously relates into data centers and how these organizations see the rise of immersion in data centers and the challenges around liquid cooling. So it's been a really interesting journey to learn how all these different ingredients come together to create a deployment such as we've seen in Stellium.
I guess as well, it'd be good to understand the sort of motive, Stellium's motive in terms of developing OCP-Ready data center. Why does it matter so much to you? Is it lots of customers are sort of knocking on the door and saying, we need this, you think it's important, and you're telling your customers this is the way forward. Just, yeah, how much it matters to you, and why, if you like.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the growth of OCP and the understanding around what OCP means within our market and within the data center industry. So I think from an OCP's perspective and a Stellium perspective, we really, as I mentioned earlier, really wanted to showcase what we could do from an immersion point of view. As some people may know, we are the only secure cable landing station in the country. We bring in one of the Meta routes, and we bring in the NO-UK route, which goes off to Norway, Stavanger. And again, OCP is about sustainability. Really focuses in on sustainable, cost-effective solutions. Okay. For organizations, and that doesn't mean the data center, that means the hyperscalers, the cloud organizations that are around that. It's hard to deliver net zero and things like this if you're not using 100% sustainable energy, which we do in Stellium. We're very lucky where we are based that we've got one of the largest wind farms in the world, which is about to come online, which is Dogger Bank. We've got Blythe online already. So that 100% renewable energy component, is a ticked box at Stellium. And again, I think, being one of only a few data centers and being in the north where we're starting to see now that area being earmarked for IT, for things like space and renewable energy, it's a really interesting place to be, especially with the kind of research universities we have around there, the kind of organizations that operate in the northeast as well. I think it's key that we're there centered by renewable energy and being able to deliver OCP services and products to people. To answer your question, are people banging at the door? It's garnered a lot more interest from some of the larger hyperscale customers and some of the AI businesses that are working closely with OCP. And whether that's for them to bring their own costs down, to work to a certain format, that's their decision. But we need to be there to be able to welcome them in and let them deliver their services in an OCP environment.
And you fairly recently hosted, I think, an open day to showcase, obviously, the OCP solution. Just be good to understand how that went. What's the feedback from that?
It was a fantastic day, and of course we're limited in a data center, so we wanted to have the proof of concept in a data center where it should be. We had about 70 people turn up, so it's by private invite only. We had a number of consultants. We had a lot of people from large organizations, some hyperscale organizations there, who were interested to see this in action and see it working. And they were interested to speak to all the different partners that had turned up from that day. We had people come over from Taiwan, from the US. We had people turn up globally to Stellium, which was fantastic for us. It allowed then, with all the partners, with the customers there, with our sales team, the Stellium sales team there, to answer questions, to divert them off to people that, for example, they want to talk to ExxonMobil, or they would like to talk to Submer or Marata. We were all there together. And as I looked around at one point, you realize that it was some key people in the industry had come together to see something quite groundbreaking, really. And that was a nice feeling to see on that day. So it was a really good day. We picked up a number of leads and a number of customers that are really interested. And we've enjoyed working with Submer. I believe Submer are out there and are kind of leading the way in the immersion field. Was why we chose Submer in the first place. And they have a great ecosystem that's built around it, and you can see Submer's trajectory taking off in a good way, and we're happy to be part of that.
I guess just before we finish, more generally, the Open Compute project's obviously been around for a while. I'm just interested, do you think momentum is continuing to build? Because obviously there's been sort of fairly high profile sort of pushback against environmental sustainability issues, net zero, from the other side of the Atlantic, shall we say. Is that having any impact, or do you think people are pretty much in the data center industry set on this sustainability and OCP sort of direction, or do you worry slightly there might be a bit of a step backwards, shall we say?
No, well, I haven't seen that step backwards in the UK, and I've seen another site recently up in Scotland become OCP accredited, which I think rubber stamps why OCP are doing what they're doing and why organisations like Stellium are following that OCP lead. I don't see that pushback in the UK. That may be a different scenario in the US. Again, you're going to have a pushback from you're going to have a pushback from any area which, you know, people like OCP are trying to deliver a proprietary service. Okay, they're getting away from that. It's open source, and of course, some organisations want their customers to run on their proprietary software. So there's always software or solutions. There's always going to be a pushback. So I haven't seen that in the UK. It's only a good thing when I speak to customers, and sometimes they don't know what OCP is. But once you start to explain what OCP is, the founders of OCP, and why it came to where it is now, I think people pick that story up, they understand it, and everything that I see in what we're doing with OCP is about driving sustainability, is about bringing power usage down, is about trying to make things a better place for data centers. We've all seen that the whole world's looking at data centers at the moment. It has been for the past few years, and I think we need to prove as an industry that we are moving forward. We are trying to cut power usage. We're trying to cut all the things that could potentially make us a dirty industry. So I only see OCP as doing a good job in that area.
Again, maybe just finding yourselves, it'd be good to understand. You clearly keep yourself very busy, but what's on the roadmap in terms of what you can share, whether it's OCP related or just further developing the Newcastle site? And I'm sure I've asked you before, but you must, I guess, have one eye on opening up somewhere else as well at some stage. So just anything you can share with us would be great.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, the Stellium campus has 3 buildings on it. We operate in one of those. There's the potential that we grow into those other 2 buildings, and that could be sooner rather than later. We're starting to build out more now. The whole liquid thing has really picked up for us. So we have a number of research universities in there that are utilizing liquid cooling, whether that's rear door or liquid to chip. We're now seeing interest from the larger AI companies because we're so heavily powered with the potential to bring 200 megawatts into that campus. We can deliver the kind of growth and trajectory that some of these large organizations are now requiring. I think with what you saw in Heathrow the other week with the fire there, it raises another eyebrow as to should everything be around the Slough trading estate? Are there inherent problems to that from a resiliency perspective, or the ability to deliver more land and power? So I think you're going to see organizations have to move out. We're seeing data center operators move out into places like Manchester and Leeds. Well, Newcastle's very much on the map for that. So that growth trajectory is coming, and I think it's been really interesting that we've moved away from talking to customers about traditional air cooling. We still see that every day, but the ability to provide both liquid and air now has been very interesting for customers, and the size and scale of the site, really sets that in to customers that they can grow in there. They're not going to come in with a megawatt or 2 and then be squeezed and they can't get in any more and have to move somewhere else. We have that roadmap for them, which has been great.
Okay, well, it's been great to chat and find out what's going on with yourselves at the moment. It sounds as though very exciting and plenty more to keep you busy, but at least for now, Ed, really appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time, Philip. It's been fantastic. Thanks.